I just looked through 13 straps of $1 bills and discovered some hidden value in some of those bills. One has the lowest serial number I have found to date, one is from 1969, and one is a rare error note. So let me show you what I found and more importantly, what they're selling for on eBay. First, I'll go over the several bills that really piqued my interest. The fourth bill I'll show is by far the best. Afterwards, I'll touch on the remaining star notes, fancy serial numbers, and older notes I found. Think of those as icing on the cake. Then I'll provide an overall estimate of what all the finds are worth based on recent sales comps. Lastly, I'll give a recap on all the bills I found by assigning them to each strap I found them in, just so you can see what each strap delivered. Now I want to talk about this pretty cool find, the low serial numbers. In terms of this bill and going through the comps, there was a lot of low serial numbers to go through in the results, and rather than endlessly scroll to find them, I went ahead and picked them out and tried to find things that were close to what we have. So as you can see, this serial number is 1313. It's a little bit lower, but not by much. The bill is from the 90s, so a little bit of an older bill, but very rough shape in comparison to what we have. And this still sold for $7. The next bill, 1142. So comparable to what we have, a little bit lower in serial number, about the same condition. This one sold for $9.95 on May 17th. This one here, a little bit of a higher serial number, 1750, and the bill looks in more rough shape. And this one still sold for $10.40 on May 14th. Now this one, we're about 4,000 higher on the serial number on this bill, and it's still sold for $11.95. And this one for $18.95, and that serial number is 1,037. And then here's one more to show you, $19.95 on May 24th, 1,198 for the serial number. So out of those 6 comps, that average is about $13. Now, granted, there were some a little bit higher, some a little bit lower in the serial number, but we're just trying to find an average and something to go off of. So I would estimate that we could turn around and sell this bill for between $13 to $15. All right, let's talk about this older series 1969C note that we found. I'm going to jump into the comps right away. There weren't a lot of comps, only 2 for the C series that I could find for recent sales. So this is the first one. It's a circulated note sold on April 19th for $12.98. And it does look like it's in better condition. Here it is right here, a better view of it. I'm gonna jump to the next one, 1969C series, and this one sold for $7.60 fairly recently, June 7th. The condition does look like it's more beat up though than the bill that we have. Now I expanded the search out to 1969 in general, and the D series popped up with a sale at $3.95, and then another one here, $4 on April 27th. Now, something to consider about the D series when comparing it to the C series is that there were more D printed in general for all of the districts than there were the C series. So that could explain the higher price point on these C series. Now, I also did something where I looked at current listings for sale. I wanted to see if there were any listings for circulated C series. And the first thing that I came across was uncirculated C series right here. And they're selling for $9.95. And this is from the Richmond district, which had about 61 million or so printed. Now, when comparing that to the B district, these had about 50 million printed, so slightly less. So theoretically, these would be harder to find in circulation right now. Since this is circulated, and this is uncirculated, you can pick one up for $9.95. It would be difficult to hit the price point of the comp that we showed you for $12.98, I think. What would be more conservative, considering the comps and what's for sale right now, I would estimate that we could sell this for around $5 to $7. Okay, I'm going to dig into this low run size star note now. I will reference this site where we punch in the serial number for the star note. It spits out the run size, 500,000, and total printed 8.82 million. So that simply means that for the series 2017 L district, there were 8.82 million star notes printed. And in the specific run that this was printed in, there was only 500,000. So on the same website, it breaks down the runs. There were 4 of them. And we can see that the serial number we found falls within that highlighted range, and there were 500,000 printed. Now we compare that to the 3.2 million printed on run number 1 and 3, and then the 1.92 on run number 4. That's clearly making this a more rare star note in that sense. However, considering there's a high total print count of 8.82 million, that's not making the star note overly rare, because there are a lot of 2017 series L District star notes out there. So keeping that all in mind, I'm going to pull up some comps, and the closest comps that we could come to are from the 2017 L District that fall within the same run that my star note falls within, and this one sold for $269. And here's another one that sold for $269, and here's one for $499. Now this is going to be a different series and district, but it's going to have the same run size at 500,000. The total printed though on this one was around 11 million. So it actually had a higher total print count. Here's one more comp, $799 for another 500,000 run size. But this total print count for the 2017 L district was around 4 million. So it made it a little bit more rare. However, generally speaking, this is still not a very rare star note, and this price point was at the higher end of the range. So keeping all of this in mind, I would estimate that this would sell between the $2.50 to $3.50 range. Now let's talk about the best find of the bank strap hunt, this inkwell contamination error note. So as you can see, the serial numbers are different colors, and that's exactly what this error is. This upper serial number is the appropriate color green. The bottom serial number is a much darker green, and there are some variations that it's even closer to black in color. But what happens is when ink from a different source contaminates the ink fountain or press rollers during the printing process, it ends up changing the color of the ink. So it's a fairly rare occurrence. There are certain known blocks and dates that this occurs on. So this right here is the series 2013, the DF block. I also know that the DD block for 2013 has some of these. And another well-known one is the FC block from the 2017 A series. There are others, so you can find them in different blocks, but these are just more of the well-known ones. So without further ado, let's check out some comps. And look at that, $104.24 when you include the shipping cost on this that someone paid for this error note. That's a pretty awesome comp to start with. It's the same block, the DF block from series 2013 that we have. Now, the next couple here's another one from the DF block, but there's also one now from the LE block, and they're both series 2013. This looks like it was from the same seller, and I guarantee these could have sold for more. I don't think this seller knew what the value of these were. And as you can see, both sold for about $20. Now, I have personally sold a couple of these inkwell contamination error notes on eBay, one for around $90. Another one was around $65. So I definitely know they can sell for more. Now, this one we're skipping over because that's not the error note that we're talking about. We're going to scroll down and look at a few more. This one's from the LB block, and someone paid almost $50 for that. Someone paid over $50 for this LB block, the 2017 A. And here's the one I was talking about before, the 2017 A from the FC block, and someone paid $65 for that. And here's another LF block, $31.25 for that. And a few more to throw in the mix. Here's one from the LA block, $19.50. But again, getting back to something like the DF block where it's more widely known on that error, $66. And then again on the LF block, that one sold for $55. So taking into consideration all of these bills we just went over, even considering these low comps, it still averages just north of $50 per inkwell contamination note. So that's a pretty solid number to go with. So I would estimate that this bill would sell for between $50 to $65. Now, regarding the rest of the older bills that I found, there were 499s, 195, and 188A. I pulled up comps on some 99s. I filtered it by the lowest selling price within the past few months just to get a baseline on what these were going for. And these 99s started at around $2.50, and then you can see they creep up to about the $5 range before it got into the uncirculated 99s. So right here we can see the $5 range and then they start going into uncirculated territory and star notes. So the same held true for the 95s when I looked at them. And then these are the 88As, and we can see that the bottom selling price is slightly higher than the 99s and what the 95s were, at right around the $3 mark. And these creeped up to around the $6 mark for the circulated 88As before it got into the uncirculated territory where it starts around $7. So keeping that in mind, that there's a range anywhere from around $2.50 to $6 on the circulated comps that I found. The listings that are currently for sale on these, there's a lot of them for the 99s, the 95s, and the 88As at the bottom selling prices. So if I wanted to turn around and sell these quickly, I would have to be obviously competitive with my pricing, and I wouldn't want to go in those higher comps. It's possible, that's why I'm showing you those comps, to sell them for higher prices. But if I wanted to just kind of get rid of these quickly, I'm going to estimate the value on average on all of these at about $2 to $3 per bill. And the best way to go about that is I would probably group my 99s together and sell those as a lot. I would wait until I found some more 95s and group those together, and then same thing with the 88As. All right, now I want to touch on these 10 common star notes. And the reason they're common is because their run sizes are above 640,000. So what I did was I just filtered by lowest selling price on a common star note, and that's going to be $2. And we already know from previously looking up the 500,000 run size star note, the low end on those was around $2.70. So there's not a very large range for these to fall within, between $2 to $2.70. There are outliers that could sell for more. Condition does play a factor in that. But if I were to throw an estimate on what I could sell these for fairly quickly, I would estimate them at around $2 per star note. That would be the average. And the reason I'm just going to give it an average is because some of the conditions are more poor than the other ones. These ones might sell for more, these ones might sell for less. But again, I would sell these as groups. So maybe 5 star notes together, and maybe I would sell them for around $10 or $12. And just touching on this very last bill briefly, this 5 in a row 7s, there's not a lot of value on it considering there's a very ugly stamp on the front of the bill. The comps here are showing at around $5 for that first one, and then the second listing, that's a set of 2 for $9, so $4.50 a piece. And these last 2 listings aren't very good comps to use because that first one, there's a mix of numbers of those 3 bills, and this last one, this is nearly uncirculated, and it's a 90s bill. So our range is around $4.50 to $5 on something that wouldn't have an ugly stamp on it. Considering it does, there might be $1 or $2 over face value on this, but it really wouldn't even be worth selling at that point when you factor in fees and shipping. So on this bill here, we're just going to say we're going to throw it back into circulation. Now I want to give a recap on all of the estimated selling prices for the bills that I found through this bank strap hunt. So for the inkwell contamination error, there's an estimated selling price of between $50 to $65 for the low serial number, $13 to $15 for the 1969 C series, $5 to $7 for the 500K run size star note, $2.50 to $3.50 for the 6 older notes, $2 to $3 a piece, meaning that would be $12 to $18 for the group. And then for the 10 common star notes, $2 each, so $20 for the group. For the grand total, that gives us $102.50 to $128.50. Not a bad haul from those bank strap finds. Now, for those of you that are interested in seeing the exact order I found everything, continue watching and I'll show you what I found in each bank strap. We're going to start our breakdown of what each strap delivered. So this is strap number 1, and we had 2 star notes and 2 older bills. So we'll start with these star notes. This 2013 from the F district, that had a run size of 3.2 million and total printed of 6.75 million. And then this next star note, 2017A from the F district, that had a run size also of 3.2 million with a total printed of just under 11 million. So both common star notes. Moving on to the older bills, we had 2 bills from series 1999. All right, let's move to the next strap. Strap number 2 gave us 4 finds, 2 of those finds being some of the top finds of the bank strap hunt. So we're going to start with that ink well contamination error. And then we also have a star note, which happened to be the semi-low run star note. It had a run size of 500,000 with 8.82 million total printed. And then 2 older bills. We had one from 1988A and then another from 1995. All right, moving on to strap 3. Strap number 3 only produced 1 bill, that being a star note, and it had a run size of 3.2 million with total printed of 22.65 million. So making that another common star note for the bunch. All right, moving on to strap number 4. Strap number 4 gave us 1 fancy serial number, that being 5 in a row 7s. All right, let's move on to strap 5. Strap 5 delivered 1 star note, that being a common star note at a run size of 3.2 million and total printed of 12.88 million. All right, let's move on to the next strap. Straps number 6 and 7 were both a bust with no finds, so this is going to be a find from strap number 8, that being a semi-low serial number, and this is actually the lowest serial number I have found to date, so a pretty cool find here. Let's go ahead and move on to the next strap. Strap number 9 delivered a star note and an older bill. So the star note, we have a 2017A from the F District with a run size of 3.2 million and just under 11 million total printed. So we have a common star note there. And then this was our oldest note of the bunch. We had that series 1969C. So a pretty cool find there. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next strap. Strap number 10 delivered 3 star notes, all 2017A from the F District, all within the same run, which was 3.2 million and total printed of just under 11 million. All right, let's move on to the next strap. Strap 11, there were 2 finds, one being an older bill and one another star note from the 2017 AF District. So we have that same run size of 3.2 million and just under 11 million total printed. So another common star note. And for this older bill, we have a series 1999. All right, moving on to strap number 12. There was 1 find here in strap 12 being a star note 2021 B District, and that had a run size of 3.2 million with total printed of 4.2 million. So another common star note for the group. Now let's move on to the very last strap. And for the very last strap, number 13, we had 1 find, an older note, which was series 1999. So for a total on all of our finds in those 13 straps, we ended up with 11 star notes, this one being the semi-low run of 500,000. And then we ended up with 7 older notes. We had 4 from 99, and then we had 1 from 95, 1 from 88A, and then the standout older note from 69C. And then we had a few other notes, the 5 in a row 7s, the semi-low serial number, and of course, last but not least, the inkwell contamination error note. As we wrap things up, I would enjoy finding out whether you would keep or sell any of my top finds if it was you who found them. Comment below with your answer, and also if you like seeing these finds with real sales comps, show your support by liking the video and subscribing for more videos like these.